Hello folks, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be doing a wrap-up for the World in Flames Collector's Edition Days of Decision 3 solo playthrough. What I think went wrong, what I think went right, general strategies of the major powers, and just a general analysis of how things went. Like I said at the end of the last episode, basically decided that the Western Allies and the Communists were going to concede the game. The reason being was that was the end of the March-April turn, and we have May, June, July, August, and pretty much some of September, October is going to be all good weather. The Germans are very strong in Russia right now. I mean, they actually have some breakthroughs here and here. And the Russians are basically not going to be able to stop them from taking the Caucasus, taking Persia, backdooring through Iraq, and destroying the Western Allied position in the Middle East. So, really, there's really no way they can stop that. The defeat of the American fleet and the South Pacific last turn, the loss of 2 carriers to basically inflicting no damage on the Japanese. The Japanese breakthrough in India. The Japanese are now next to Chongqing in China. I mean, it's only a matter of time. They're just going to wear down the Chinese and conquer them. Even though U.S. production is going to become astronomically high, I just felt at the time that it doesn't matter. It won't matter at this point. U.S. production can be as high as it can go, and they're not going to be able to stop the fascists. So that's why I basically conceded the game. Okay, so I think the original fascist strategy of having Germany bid pretty much every turn since the beginning of the game in 1936, I think that was a really strong strategy. The Germans just got so much out of that. They basically were able to align Sweden. They got lucky with the coup in Spain and able to align Spain. That was kind of luck, but even so, the Germans ended up with 3 allies, Romania, Sweden, actually 4. Romania, Sweden, Finland, and Spain. And Spain was a big one. Having Spain allowed them to eventually take Gibraltar, which basically kept the Western Allies out of the Mediterranean. The Italians actually ended up with a couple allies too. They ended up with Hungary and Bulgaria. So that kind of worked out for the Italians as too. Kind of worked out for them as well. The Germans could have pushed a little bit harder, and they probably would have ended up with Turkey as well, which would have been a real nail in the coffin down there. The fact that Japan was able to get an ally with Chile, I think I made a mistake with the U.S. on that. They probably should have used the Monroe Doctrine as soon as they could. But even then, the Japanese could have just ignored it and said, do whatever. It would have been a big distraction for the U.S., and I'm not quite sure what the political consequences of it would have been. But as it stands right now, Mexico is 1 step away from being allied to Japan and coming into the war. So that would even distract the U.S. even more and allow the fascists to do even more on the board. Okay, so let's take a few minutes here to discuss basically what I was doing with each major power. Like I said, the Germans were going to bid every turn. Excuse me. And minor economic agreements, minor alliances, every turn bidding for the first 3 years of the game. Seemed to do really well. I think the Italians and the Japanese would basically try to bid whenever the Germans weren't bidding, and they would try to get things done. When the Germans were going to do one thing, like do a minor alliance, then like the Japanese might do a minor economic agreement, or the Italians might do a minor economic agreement, or something like that. So they try to kind of coordinate amongst themselves. It seemed to work out really well. I mean, Japan has Chile and Argentina and Siam as minor allies, so that was pretty good. The Western democracies, I think I might have screwed up a little bit with them. I'd forgotten all about the U.S. free trade bonuses. Probably should have had the U.S. signing trade agreements, or U.S. signing treaties with everybody they could, and in those treaties getting trade agreements that would help give the other countries the production multiple of the U.S. It gives them more money. Gives them more money, and they probably would have had a little bit more money to do things with. Plus, all that would have been in place before the war generally broke out globally. And I kind of messed that up a little bit. I don't really think it had a dire consequence. I think it's just a little thing that could have been done to help them. The Commonwealth, I think, should have been a little bit more proactive in trying to stop the Germans' diplomatic push. The only problem with that is that, like, the U.S. and France just don't have any money. The French have to concentrate on building an army, and the U.S. has to concentrate on building a navy. And even the Commonwealth has to concentrate on building a navy. The Commonwealth, the fleet at this point in the game is more or less gutted. There really isn't a whole lot left. I think they have a total of 3 carriers right now. Their battleships are beat up badly. They don't have a whole lot of cruisers. And the fact that they have to protect everything everywhere has just spread them out too much. I think one of the drawbacks with the play of the Commonwealth is that I didn't build enough cruisers. I really should have built a lot more cruisers. I probably should have built carriers. Probably should have built all their carriers when I had the opportunity. And just ignore land forces and air forces until the war got really close to breaking out. I think that was probably a mistake I made with the Commonwealth. The French, I don't really see any way to play them other than the way I played them. I tried to do max building with the military with them. The problem with them is they just don't have the money or the resources to get a lot accomplished before 39. And at that point, you're already looking at war. China's China. You just do the best you can with China. I think how it ended up in China, I think that from this perspective, I think the communist Chinese are really strong and the nationalist Chinese are really beat up. So the Japanese kind of paid attention to the nationalists more than the communists as far as attacking went, and the nationalists suffered for it. The last faction was the communist faction, and the Soviets. I think I probably should have tried to build more land forces to start the game out with. The invasion of Persia, I think that's a really good thing for the communists to do, because it gives them a bunch of extra oil. And that extra oil came in handy after the German invasion, when the Soviets started losing resources in the Ukraine area. I got a whole bunch of factories railed out, plus I think next year they're going to get a couple factories built. So those extra resources were really valuable as far as that goes. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hit on the U.S. entry, but I don't think it really matters. I think it's more important for the Soviets to get that extra resources. And there was a few partisans that popped up, but they're really non-consequential. What else? Oh, the diplomatic game for the Soviets. I don't really see that they should do too much. Um, Demanding the border territories, yep, do that. Maybe an initial treaty with the Germans in 39. Yep, you can do that. All that stuff helps out. Um, Persia, I would say, is probably as far as they should go as far as conquering minor countries. The Finns are too tough. The Romanians are too tough. It's just you can't really do much against them until later in the war, anyways. Later in the game, anyways. And then if you mess with Romania, you could have Germany coming down on you in 40, which would be really bad. The outbreak of war in Europe. I want to say a few things about that. In a standard game of World in Flames, it's Germany does Poland, Germany does Denmark, Germany does Norway, Germany does Low Countries, Germany does France. In fact, pretty much all World War II games, strategic games like this one, that's pretty much wrote into the game. In this particular game, we started in 36, and I had the German strategy of ignoring Poland for now and going after France. And I think from a German perspective, that was actually really beneficial for them. I think they caught the French a little flat-footed, though the Germans had a couple bad dice rolls as far as ending the turn and whatnot. But they did take out France in 39, and that actually helped them out a lot. And then they could just leisurely plow the Poles under, and that would be the end of them. Before that, I want to say a few things about Austria and Czechoslovakia. I think from a German perspective, those should get done as soon as possible. The whole thing with German play in this game, from what I can see, is that the Germans need to maximize their production as early as possible. Same thing with the Italians and Japanese, but it's really crucial for the Germans to do that. If you have low production as the Germans, you're not going anywheres. The Soviets, their production is pretty static. It's not going to change very much, so they really can't do too much until they start to gear up anyways. The Western democracies, the Commonwealth production is going to hinge on how soon they can get their resources to England. They don't have enough convoy points, so that's going to take them a little bit to get enough convoy points to get all their resources to England, and that takes a few years to do. Excuse me. U.S. production is just going to be 3 until they actually end up close to war anyway, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. Like I said earlier, they can do some things with trade agreements, and it'll boost the democracy's production a little bit. And a little bit helps. Every little bit helps with the democracies, so that is one thing to consider. I would say, though, that doing this solo playthrough, I did have fun doing it. I mean, when I first started it, I thought that it was going to be kind of boring. And, you're playing the game by yourself. How boring is it? No, it actually ended up being kind of fun. And I think doing it the way I did it, by putting it on YouTube, it didn't really feel like I was playing the game by myself, because I had all you out there watching, so I kind of made that interesting from that perspective. But I think that probably going to do another one of these, probably in the fall. I want to try a few different strategies. I want to try a different strategy with the democracies. I definitely want to do that. I want to try something a little bit different with the Chinese. This particular game, the communists and the nationalists were kind of buddy-buddy. They really didn't interfere with each other too much, and I believe historically there were several clashes between the communists and the nationalists, and there was basically the Chinese Civil War going on before Japan invaded them. So I kind of want to look at it, the Chinese situation from that perspective, and I might want to do something like that. Of course, the communist Chinese will have to be supported by the Soviets, so, but that might be an interesting perspective in the next game to examine that and explore how that works. I wanted to say something about China in general. I had the Japanese invade China. I think it was one turn later than historically, or maybe 2 turns later than historically. It was later than historically. I think that it actually behoves Japan to put it off a little longer, maybe even a year longer than was historically done. That way the Japanese, I found myself in the first year of the Japanese campaign in China, I found that the Japanese were really stretched thin. They really didn't have enough forces to do what they really needed to do. And it was really difficult to get going with them at first. Eventually they did take off. Air power seemed to be critical in China, and the Japanese Air Force, to put it mildly, just sucks tactically. It just sucks. They don't have anything like a Stuka, with a 5 or 6 tactical rating. They most of their stuff is like 1s and 2s. 2 would be good for a Japanese tactical bomber. So, okay, so I think I'll be picking this up, and I want to thank everybody for watching, and I appreciate it. And in the future, I think I'm going to be doing some face-to-face stuff. I have some miniature battles I want to do some face-to-face recordings on. Because my group is 4 people, we generally game together. We do a lot of miniature stuff, so I want to do some of that. I got another board game I want to do a solo playthrough. It's a Civil War board game, American Civil War. So I want to do a playthrough on that. That will be a solo playthrough again. Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for watching, and I appreciate it. And this game has been interesting, to say the least, and I actually found myself learning several things that I actually didn't know. I mean, doing one of these really teaches you about the rules, that's for sure. And I'm sure I screwed up here and there. I'm sure. Every game you play that has a rule book, people screw it up here and there. They didn't understand the rule, or didn't read it, or whatever. But excuse me, I did have fun, and I will be picking this up now. And thanks for watching, and I appreciate it again. And see you next game.